All right, I think we're recording.
All right.
Okay, hello everybody. Coach Wojtek here. Today I'm joined by Michiel Schapers, a former top 25 player in the world, Davis Cup captain, and someone who coached me during my most formative years between age 16 and 19. He shaped not just my game, but my identity as a player. Michiel, I'm so grateful you are here. I appreciate this.
I'm happy to be there, Wojtek.
Awesome. So, what's one story from your teens that best explains your identity or your tennis identity today from early teens?
Um, I think what defines me best is my love for the wall. I used to play a lot of tennis outdoors against the wall um, because in my days it was not easy to become a member of a club. You had to wait a little bit. So I grabbed my opportunity and learned my tennis playing against the wall. And the wall is very patient, brings all balls back, and I had always had a lot of fun. I even chalked a half of a tennis court on the floor and the net at the right height, and I was imagining playing matches against the wall,
I
which is
love it. So
highly entertaining.
fantastic. So paint the picture for us. So you're 9 years old, 10 years old. Like, is there like are there people around? Like, is it random wall? Is it in the club wall? Is it any wall?
Well,
Like music, no music?
I had several walls. One wall was my own house, which was closest, of course. So when I was in a hurry, I played against the own house, which my sisters didn't really like when they were doing their homework. But within like 400 or 500 yards, there was a school which had a huge wall, and that's the one I went for longer sessions. And yes, the music was on sometimes. It was the radio station playing some music and maybe giving the sports results. So there was some entertainment. But when it was a little bit wet or rainy, I wouldn't take the radio, of course, and I would just play on my own against the wall.
I love
No
it.
spec, no spectators,
No, and no ball boys.
no ball boys. No. So it was very
Fantastic.
important to keep control.
That is true. That is true. So, from our conversations, I believe you said you did not really play on indoor courts until you were 14, and you had no private lessons until you were 18, right? So, what did that force you to develop?
Well, I got selected in a regional training when I was 14 years old. So that was my first opportunity to play on indoor courts twice a week. And it was in groups, but I really learned a lot from a very good teacher, and she had a gift to coach a lot of players at the same time, and I got a lot of information from her, and it was very good to be in a big group, to see other players, to get other examples, to have discussions about tennis. And as you mentioned, 18 years, but in fact, it was more like 21 years old. I met my coach, who was my coach during my professional career. And that's when I started having private lessons with him.
So, until that moment, you were developing your technique only, through group lessons and watching others, and just any tip that a coach gave you that you felt was the right tip, you just went and tried yourself? Or walk us through your process, sort of how.
Well, the regional trainer gave a lot of good tips. And I was the type of player that really liked to experiment with the tips and see what was good for me. And I also like to watch a lot of tennis matches. When I was younger, I used to be umpire at club matches at a higher level. So that gave me the opportunity to watch some good tennis, and I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's sort of a lost art, I think. I mean, so many things you've said so far, it's like it's going to be very foreign to people. They'll be like, oh, hitting against the wall, you know, trying by yourself, completely developing technique. experimenting, like all this are yeah, very interesting concept. So where did exploration and self-drive show up most in your development, you think?
Basically in all departments, I would say. It was not a specific thing. It showed up in everything. Um, I developed a good eye for strategical, tactical situations on the court. Because I did a lot of other sports, it helped me to become very, very fit. Technique was a big thing in the beginning, and because I was lagging behind a little bit. So by watching a lot of tennis and by listening to the advice I got, that helped me quite a bit. And mentally, I would say um, I was helped by the fact that I was very curious and I was very disciplined, self-discipline. If I got some schedules to do for physical training, I had to do them on my own, and I would be right on it. So I would say it was very broad.
Very good. And would you say that would you say that curiosity in many cases would be talent?
Um, it's part of the development. Curiosity. If you want to develop your game, you got to be curious. It's a very, very important aspect in your development, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. The same in business and in everything, right? I mean,
Yep.
anything
Yeah.
we do, if we don't experiment, if we don't try things, it's just not going to help us. So, which habits stuck with you all the way to the pro tour and coaching from this early days of development?
I would say everything which had to do with discipline and self knowledge and to always remember that in order to improve, you got to be very patient and you got to be friendly towards yourself. You don't be too critical. And also, I think acceptance is a big part of the picture.
Very cool. And did you know, or did you have a thought, like how early on did you have a thought that tennis is something you would want to do on a very high level? Or did you
Um,
ever have that thought?
and that was very, very late. I would say around when I was around 21, 22 years old.
Wow. And until
Yeah.
then, it was just sort of a part of developmental journey?
Yes, yes. I love tennis. I love playing tennis. And when I was 18 and finished high school, I went on to study in the Netherlands, economics. And in the meantime, I was playing a lot of tennis as well. So I was playing a lot of matches, training a lot, but also studying. So I was following two paths. But I realized when I was 21, 22, that the path of professional tennis was actually an option. And I took the decision to follow that path when I was 22 years old.
It's also fascinating. So it was very much, you were just living life, going from, from one developmental stage to the next one without this like huge vision, except the vision of accept your principles of hard work, self-discipline, excellence, in everything you did, and just sort of applying yourself. And then throughout, you started seeing more and more potential. And then at one stage, you were like, makes sense to go farther, right? Is that?
Yes, exactly. That's a good description. And I remember watching some results from the exams I was taking for economics, and I realized I was coming to a crossroads because if I wanted to do the last couple of years of study, I would have to invest much more time to finish the studies. And I realized that I could always finish my study later. I had that option. And I realized if I really want to develop as a player and maybe become a professional, I had to make the choice to go for that career. And in the back of my mind, I had some kind of, insurance that if it wouldn't work out, that I was always possible to finish the studies.
No, that makes that makes sense. That's amazing. Awesome. So now changing gears a little bit, asking more for your advice through, your professional career and then coaching and, such a breadth of I haven't shared we share a birthday, so you're spectacular, obviously. So what's the cost of chasing early specialization, right? Or early success at 12 and under tennis or any other sport?
Yeah, well, there is always the danger of a burnout if you go for results too early, and if you put the results over the development at an early age. There's always a risk. It depends a little bit on the individual, but I would say in general, for tennis players and some other sports people as well, it's a great idea to do different sports, several sports until at least you're 40 years old, but maybe even a little bit older, which will keep you better balanced. And which means, I think, in general, not playing too many tournaments, not playing too many hours, but try to get quality hours and try to develop a very sound physical body in order to be well prepared for maybe a later career in tennis or in any other sports.
So I know that this is not fully going to be hypothetical situation, but let's present it as a hypothetical situation. So you have a pretty high level 12 and under player, let's say 12-year-old who have a significant result in a scale of a, region or country already. And they've been kind of doing exactly what you've been saying. And then all of a sudden, everybody starts taking interest in them and saying, "Oh, you must do, you need to start training much more. You need to come and, here's a $10,000 scholarship if you come and train with us, but it has to be 5 days a week." So you still would encourage, well, what would be the message towards the parents at that spot?
Well, the message for sure is not to get too overexcited, because I don't really believe in the fact that scouting can take place at such a young age. Of course, there are 12-year-olds who show promise, but that doesn't say a lot because they still got to go through puberty, which means that they will be growing, which means there will be other aspects of their life that need a focus, need attention. So it is very individual, but again, in general, I would say don't get too overexcited and go for quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity. I love that. So now for the self-drive, how can parents help kids move from parent-driven to self-driven? Like, are there any ways to encourage your type of behavior?
Well, start at home and let them do chores. It's ask them to do the shopping, ask them to mow the lawn, to do the washing. Get them involved at some duties at home. That's a great start. Show them that it's very important to show gratitude, and be humble at the right times. So basically, I think what helps the most is when you instill good values in your kid.
Good values early.
Early,
Very,
yes.
yeah,
Very, very early. If you are getting used to be responsible for stuff in the family and learn how to operate those things yourself, it will definitely help you, and for sure in an individual sport like tennis.
that makes total sense. And now, is there a specific thing? So using tennis, is there a specific thing in tennis that we could do as parents or coaches to the players to like, they're hitting with a wall. We had that discussion many times, and I think it's important to have those discussions because Michiel, you told me specifically that you say you want to fix tennis, get the kids hitting on the wall. So I know how much you care and how much you truly believe in the wall. And I think you're absolutely onto something because the wall is a sign of true taking charge in by yourself of the development, not depending on somebody, right?
Yeah.
So how can we are there ways to encourage? Should parents maybe join kids hitting on the wall, or is it like if they don't do it themselves, then it's just doesn't work?
No, well, I would say, first of all, coaches are coaches, parents are parents. The role of a parent is not necessarily to be the coach of your kid. You can encourage your kid, but trust the coach to work with your kid. And the coaches should be aware that it's very important when you work with young kids that you can speak their language a little bit, and also realize that the span of attention of a young kid is not that big. So, for example, if you have a 9 or 10-year-old, it doesn't make any sense to practice more than 1 hour because that's their attention span. So I would rather have like 4 or 5 quality hours instead of long, grueling sessions where the kids cannot focus after 1 hour. That stuff's very important, and parents sometimes don't realize that by letting your kid be and taking a certain distance from your kid and trust the coach to do the work on court will help your kid tremendous. I mean, if I talk from my own experience, basically my parents weren't there when I was playing soccer or playing cricket or playing basketball or playing tennis or playing football, because they had their own lives, they had their own jobs, they had their own interests, and sometimes when you interfere too much, or you go to the extent that you're always there at the matches, always there at the training, it's not helpful to the development of your kid.
Yeah, but it intellectually makes sense, but it's a
Yes,
we all want to give our kids everything, out of us, and we often think that that's would be it, but the big picture is more important, like you said.
yeah, and what has changed over the years is that there is also nowadays, on average again, because it differs, uh, a sort of emotional involvement from parents that goes way too far.
Hmm.
That's my
Right.
opinion. If you go too deep in that and you're constantly start coaching your kid or giving advice, that's not the best way to go.
Oh, that absolutely makes sense. Yeah, coaches are coaches, parents are parents, and I
Exactly.
absolutely agree with that. My question was on the specific thing was more related to if a parent agree with something that coach is recommending, like hitting on the wall, is there anything specific that the parents would it be beneficial if the parent goes out and himself or herself hit few balls and say, hey, one time you hit, one time I hit. We'll do this few times just to show you how it feels. But in general, you either want to do it or not. I'm not going to force you to do it, or you don't even think that's beneficial.
Well, if it's an example, you could do that. Like the first couple of times you go with your kid, you show it. But then it's very important that you let your kid be. Let your kid be. Let them be a tennis player playing against the wall, and you don't have to interfere the whole time. You can lead by example. You can show an example. It's of course okay, but then the initiative should be by the kid. They
Right.
should okay. I'm going to hit for 1 hour and see you later, alligator. and then go. But no, it's good to show how things could be done. Give a good example.
No, I love that. That's awesome. So our primary or our main values in ROGace are joy, excellence, resilience, and gratitude. I know these are very important to you in your life as well, in your tennis life. So if you could transport yourself to somewhere like age, under 12, any moment under 12, if you can give me a one quick story for each of those that would, through tennis or through even other sport, showed it. Joy, for example.
Well, I can tell you a story where I had a moment where I had to do three sports in one day.
Okay.
I started by playing a soccer match early in the morning. Then I played a tennis match, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a cricket match, which was very interesting because it's nowadays that's practically impossible. That's something which in my days was possible, but it helped me tremendously to develop. I strongly feel that a crossover between sports is certainly there. And I got my legs from playing soccer. I got a lot of my focus from playing cricket because it takes a long time. It's a sport of moments. You got to be out of focus, in of focus. So learning how to concentrate, for example, and that there are different ways of focusing, different sorts of concentration. You learn that from other sports. And that day was very interesting, because I was switching, and what was maybe a foreboding of that I could go far in any sports was that I was able to do that, and still be relatively relatively fit the next day, So of course that was not average, but it's a great story where it shows that it helped me a lot to be involved with other sports, to learn uh, uh, focusing on certain moments and then relaxing. So that's for sure helped me a lot. And if you approach it from the tennis side, my the days with the most fun were the Sundays, where I would be assistant of my father. He was organizing the inter-club matches. He was the guy that was responsible for handing out the balls, getting the scores, and everything. And my task was to be an umpire for matches, to dry the courts whenever the rain came, and those were days at the clubs that had a big positive influence on my career later on, I think.
So so you were just hanging out, or I mean, not hanging out, you were helping, but like in general, you were just there. You were able to really soak it in, to
Yes.
watch it, to feel the
Yeah.
atmosphere,
Yeah.
and it created longing for more of it.
Of course. Yes. 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 I was always looking forward to the weekends, because on the Saturday I had either a soccer match or a cricket match, and on the Sundays it was club matches, and I would be there to enjoy it and help out, and was very inspiring.
It's amazing. Thank you, Michiel. So we are kind of wrapping up. So finish this sentence for me. Great tennis starts with.
Great tennis start with enjoying the sport. That's the most important thing, that you have fun, that there's enjoyment. You know, that's the big thing, because when people talk about talent, enjoyment and is often left out. It's overseen. You gotta enjoy what you're doing, and you gotta create an environment where this is possible. That's the most important thing to me.
That makes total sense. So now, if you have a last thing we'll ask, and one sentence advice to parents who want both character and competence for their child. what would it be?
Well, you got to find the balance between helping your kid and encouraging kids, and letting them find out on their own, and trust this process. They're gonna make mistakes, but let them make mistakes, because mistakes will help them to develop. And tennis is a sport of mistakes. So you got to accept those mistakes. You got to also make there's a difference between a good mistake and maybe a bad mistake, but help your kid and encourage your kid in a good way, but at the same time give them their freedom to develop. And this will be with ups and downs. This is not going to be a straight upward line. But if you interfere the moment when things are not looking that well, if you interfere too much and you don't let them look for a solution themselves, that could be too much.
That makes total sense. Michiel, fantastic. Is there anything that I missed that we can ask you, or anything you think you would want to share?
Well, yeah, of course, you asked me a lot of important questions, and I try to answer them in the best possible way. And of course, you always have to remember this is one opinion of somebody who went through it in the 70s, the 80s. So we are living now in a different day. So different days with different cultures, with different daily things we do and how we spend our time. So I realize as a coach that it's become a bit more difficult to actually approach it the way I could, but you can learn from the old days and take some aspects from it. And I hope you and your pupils and your parents and your colleagues will find some pearls in what I said, and you take it, you just remember and you try to implement it in the changing conditions.
That's perfect. Yes, that's amazing. All right, Michiel, thank you so much. This was an amazing time. Loved it, and I hope everybody who watch it and listen to it will love it as well.
Okay, it was very great to be with you, and I really appreciate what you are doing for your pupils and for the parents and your colleagues. And I wish you a lot of success with ROGace.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You're welcome.